Is it possible to turn your life around when you are going through the darkest night of your soul? I assure you it most certainly is. I am going to teach you a simple technique that brings you back to being fully aware, focused, calm, and way more capable of moving forward. Imagine you've been working in the same place for the last few years and you rely on your salary to get the bills paid, living expenses, travel, and you hear that in the next couple of weeks, the management are making cuts. Without thinking, your body reacts. You feel a wave of adrenaline, even nausea, and then the thoughts start to play out in your mind. You see your savings being completely wiped out, bills you can't pay, your security, your independence is being threatened, and without awareness, your mind plays out the worst case scenarios. You can't get a job somewhere else. You're unemployed 6 months from now. Complete nightmare. And it's the same cascade of emotions in other areas of our life too. Our long-term partner leaves us. You're in an accident. You get a health diagnosis that makes your senses completely real. The world seems to close in on you. Your body tenses. You feel your heart beat faster. Beads of sweat on your brow. Dread sweeps through your body. And all of these reactions, they are completely normal. When your sense of security is completely threatened, your mind and your body will react without your permission. And the question is, how long will you consciously allow it to play out? Because it's pretty obvious that this kind of reaction is emotionally and physically draining and so destructive. It affects your energy, it affects your health, it affects the space around you, and it affects the people in your life. And if you continue to allow your thoughts to play out worst case scenarios, you will begin to draw to you other people, things, and events that are on the same wavelength as how you're feeling. So unless you can rise above the destructive thoughts, get your mind and your body on a higher wavelength, get ready for more challenges and things to probably get much worse. Now, whilst I was researching this topic, I found a lot of cases out there where someone goes to the doctors for their test results and by a simple mistake that we are all capable of, are given the wrong diagnosis. So there's this man in his 60s. He had a CT scan for abdominal pain. Now, he was dreading the results. So he walked into the doctor's office. He was fumbling his words, placing his hands between his knees to stop them shaking, beads of sweat on his face, and he faced the doctor. The doctor smiled and showed him his test results. No trace of anything to be concerned about. All of the results were negative. The man took the biggest, deepest breath in, his arms in the air, his whole body uncoiling from fear and dread. The relief was so immense, he cheered. All of the worst case scenarios he'd placed in his mind over the past week, the sleepless nights, dissolved in a second. He danced out of the office. The world seemed brighter. He smiled and talked to everyone on the way to his car. He didn't even get annoyed at the woman who pulled out in front of him, or the car at the lights that just sat there when the lights turned green. He was in love with life, gratitude oozing out of every cell. He made his way home, and for the next 3 weeks, the abdominal pain, well, it slowly went away, and he just felt so good. Nothing could get him down. He felt so blessed, and he'd never felt so fit, so healthy, so grateful, and full of energy. Then the phone call came, and it was the doctor apologizing that he had been given the wrong results. There was, unfortunately, a large mass in his abdominal area, and could he come in as soon as possible? But he felt great. It just didn't make any sense. Back in the doctor's office, he asked to do the scan again. The doctor shook his head, but he agreed, because obviously this man had gone through a lot and he had been given the wrong results in the first place. The second scan showed no trace whatsoever of any mass. It just didn't make sense. The doctor compared the scans and he was completely speechless. Had the mass gone since the first scan? It was only weeks ago, and without treatment? Now, I'll leave you to your own conclusion, but this happens many times. People get someone else's results, both good and bad, and the mind, or what I call the world's greatest pharmacy, starts to create new pathways in the brain, makes new chemicals, sends instructions out to the body, all under the control of what we're thinking. Okay, so how do we recognize destructive thoughts that potentially make us sick, and how do we turn them around? As Eckhart Tolle explains, when we are focused on me and my problems, we tend to become very self-centered, very self-focused, and we lose our ability to consciously understand that if we don't turn our thoughts around, that hole we are digging will just get deeper and way harder to climb out. So whilst you can still get a leg up and pull yourself out, become aware. Imagine, guys, if you could play back your thoughts out loud, they'd probably sound like a completely deranged, mad person. So a few years ago, I went on a Deepak Chopra meditation retreat in Canada, and I will always remember this advice. Between an event, or we could say a challenge that confronts you, and your reaction to it, there's a gap. It's a pause where you have the opportunity to decide how you're going to react. So if you hear bad news or someone's rude to you, a car suddenly pulls out in front of you in traffic, you will get a feeling in your body, a rush of adrenaline, your heart rate increases, you feel threatened. And now comes the gap and the choice. Will I react how I always do, or can I become aware and respond from a higher level of consciousness? Portia Nelson was a singer, an author, composer, actress, and when asked to write a short autobiography onto 5 small cards, this is what she wrote. Number 1, I walk down the street and there's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I'm lost. It isn't my fault. It takes forever to find a way out. Number 2, I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I still don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I'm in the same place. It isn't my fault. It still takes a long time to get out. Number 3, I walk down the same street and there's a hole in the sidewalk. I see it there. I still fall in. I know where I am and I get out immediately. Number 4, I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. And number 5, I walk down a different street. And there's not one of us who can say they haven't fallen down a few holes. And that's okay. In fact, it's a good thing, because falling down is the only way we get the opportunity to learn, to grow, to be patient with ourselves, understand others when they fall down a hole. The problem is when we keep on falling down the same hole in our relationships, our finances, our health. So the next time you find yourself head on with a challenge, rather than go in and react like you always do, take a moment, feel the emotion, breathe, and use this gap, this space between the event and your reaction to ask, what outcome do I want from this? What part did I play in this? And remember, blame is cheap and it takes away all of your power. Acknowledging even the smallest amount of responsibility puts you back in control of what happens next. And addressing something that you've been doing on repeat for years that simply makes you miserable is no easy task to change. Choosing to walk down a different path takes courage and it takes patience. and a huge amount of emotional resilience. And in any bad experience, first comes the devastation of failure, of heartbreak, of loss, and then the reruns that you get in your mind of what actually happened, which leads to the regret of how you dealt with the situation, how you could have done it better, or how you could have avoided it completely. And this is all part of the process. But if you're still doing the reruns of an event in your mind, weeks later, months later, a year later, well, that's not productive. And it's damaging to you. We also need to be aware of when we're anticipating disaster, all of those things that could possibly go wrong. Why? When we're anticipating the worst, we start to produce a very negative, a very low frequency energy in our body, and it actually starts to attract the very things you're dreading might happen. There's a saying, worrying is a prayer for what you don't want. Well, our thoughts, they're kind of like seeds that grow into our future. And if you keep on watering them with the same disastrous thoughts, then by the law of attraction, you'll get exactly what you planted. There was an experiment carried out where a group of regular men and women and a group of monks were asked to place their right hand onto a hot plate. Now, they were told that the hot plate would move from room temperature and very slowly increase to extremely hot. And their task was to keep their hand on the hot plate for as long as possible and then remove it before their hand got burnt. Now, unknown to the participants, the experiment that was being run ensured that the hot plates would not exceed a certain temperature. So even if they left their hand on the plate all day, it would not at any point burn the skin of the participants. The results were, now the regular people all removed their hands before the hot plate even became remotely hot, whilst all of the monks remained touching the hot plate and they had to be told to remove their hands. Now, before the experiment had even started, the regular people all said that they had anticipated the heat increasing, the burning sensation. They'd experienced the fear in their mind of getting their skin burnt. Their heart rate was elevated, their breathing increased, and on the thought of getting burnt, that's why they pulled their hand away. But in reality, the plate wasn't even hot. And the monks, with a lifetime of meditation, living in the present moment, being aware of their environment, all of the sensations in their body, aware of their breath, simply they followed the instructions. If the plate became too hot, they'd remove their hand, remaining in present moment awareness, not anticipating anything, not thinking of worst case scenarios. They felt their hand heating up. There wasn't any pain or burning sensation, so they left their hands on the plate. So mindful of the task, they had to be asked to remove their hand as the experiment was over. So when you anticipate worst case scenarios on repeat, your brain prepares for the worst. And it's not just your brain that prepares, your body prepares too. The energy around your body reflects this worst case scenario, and everything you draw to you will be equal to what you are putting out. So next time you face a challenge, be conscious of where your mind goes, fall into the gap between the event and your response, and notice the voice in your head. And if you're anticipating the worst outcome, be aware and ask yourself, what can I override these thoughts with to get the very best results, the outcome that I want? So even if you find yourself standing in the middle of your darkest moment, remember this: you are not broken. Every challenge, every fear, every tear is not the end. It is an invitation to step into the gap and choose a different response, a different thought, a different path. You're not just here to survive this journey. You are here to transform through it. If something resonated with you in this video, please comment below. And if you'd like to keep up with my regular posts, then subscribe below. I will see you next time. Have a beautiful day. Namaste.